All right. Are we ready for this? Am I ready for this? Are you ready for this? What's up, my awesome YouTubers? Ryan1988 or Justin coming back here with a video for you all. And today I'm here to review and give you my thoughts on Halloween Ends, the last film in David Gordon Green's saga trilogy. Laurie Strode, Jamie Lee Curtis's last time as Laurie Strode. This is wrapping up a saga that began in 2018, and then we had Kills last year, and now we have Ends. And, without going into a lot of the plot, just pretty much this is the wrap-up story to David Gordon Green's vision of Halloween. And if y'all know about these movies, it includes John Carpenter's Halloween, but everything from Halloween 2 up until, Resurrection are not included, and of course the Rob Zombie films. So this is, the end of a saga. This is the supposed last Blumhouse Halloween movie. The rights go back to Malek Akkad after this, and maybe we'll get another Halloween movie, maybe we won't, but I'm pretty sure we will down the line. Halloween Ends for me, and then I'll give you my quick thoughts, and then I'll go into my pros, the neutral thoughts I have, and then the cons. Halloween Ends for me is a frustrating movie. It's a movie that when I watched it, and I did watch it on Peacock Friday, this is not going to be a movie I see in theaters. I'm sorry to say that, but I just, I have thoughts on it. I did watch it on Friday on Peacock because I wanted to watch it before spoilers were out on the internet, and I wanted to, watch it that day. The Halloween franchise is my favorite franchise of all time. It's my favorite horror movie franchise. John Carpenter's Halloween is my favorite movie of all time. So I wanted to watch it on Friday and check it out and see, what I would think about this movie. And I knew going into the movie that it was going to be a different Halloween movie. For me, when it comes to movies, I don't mind if they're different. I like when they're different, but when it comes down to it, it's just, you can make a movie that's different, but the movie has to be good. And in my opinion, this is not a movie I liked. I didn't love it. I didn't like it. The first reaction I had finishing this movie, I hated the movie. And I don't like to use that word, but I hated the movie. For me, it wasn't for me. And I know there are friends of mine out there. I know there are people that love this movie, but I also know people that really dislike this movie, like where I am. And for me, after that initial reaction of hating the film, I kept thinking about the movie, and I kept thinking, well, maybe I like it. And then, I was going over everything that I disliked, and I was going over the small pros that I have of the movie, and those small pros don't outweigh all the cons that I have of this. And it's sad to say, because I am a big Halloween fan, I really, really don't like this. Frustration was built into it. A letdown was built into it. Not a fan of this. And at one point, I wasn't even going to review this movie. I didn't want to talk about it. Just because, everybody's reviewing it. And, I'm kind of late on the game when it comes to reviewing this. But I had to have a couple days of letting this soak in. And I know that, social media and where that's out and the toxicness of social media, it being toxic, is happening right now with this movie. And I was like, do I want to make this video? Because I know I'm gonna make people mad. I know they're going to be frustrated with me. I know there are people that don't like this movie like me, but I was like, do I really want to make this video and deal with the trolls and negative comments? But being I'm a Halloween fan, I have to talk about it. I have to give you my thoughts. Even though I don't like this movie at all, it has pros. And I want to go into the pros before I go into anything else. So the first pro I have with this is David Gordon Green's directing. I really like the directing in this. I think there's some really good build-up moments. There's a scene in the film, and it's actually in the trailer, where you see the camera work, and it's leading up to the stairs, and you see Jamie Lee Curtis. She's in this room. Michael opens the door, and Jamie's there with the gun. I really like that directing. I thought that was really cool. That was a really good, wink and homage to John Carpenter's opening scene in his first movie, or his movie. So I like the directing. Overall, very impressed with it. I think the opening directing is great right when the movie opens. So David Gordon Green, directing-wise, does a good job here. John Carpenter's music, I love his music in general. I love what he's done with these new 3 movies that are out. I have the first 2 soundtracks, and I'll probably get this one just because I really like the music in it. Though one of the cons I have to say is I don't think the music is as heavy here, and it's not as used as much. Maybe eventually when I go watch it again, I'll kind of notice it more. But I feel like out of the 3 David Gordon Green Halloween films that John Carpenter and his son and his team has worked on with these movies, this is probably the one that has the less music in it. And yeah. But overall, the Carpenter's music is definitely a pro for me. Talking about the opening scene, the opening scene was really good. I enjoyed the opening scene. I thought that was great. It was a great way to kick off the movie, and I liked that it was different. We didn't have the same, Halloween score, within the Universal logo. It was a more like upbeat, fun Halloween song, and I knew right then that this was going to be a different movie. And again, like I said in the beginning of the video, I don't mind when a movie's different. It just has to be good. And then, the opening title sequence. I like the idea of, the pumpkins transforming. And I like the Halloween 3 homage reference that this movie has. Like, I've always loved the homages and the respect that David Gordon Green has given to each one of these movies in the franchise, even though he has said he's disregarded anything pretty much after Carpenter's movie up until his movie, or his saga, his trilogy. I like that he does pay respect to them. It's got a nice Halloween atmosphere, but I feel like out of the 3 movies, Halloween Kills has the best Halloween atmosphere. I think this one does have a good fall atmosphere. Of course, you're seeing Jamie Lee Curtis's character make pumpkin pies, and it has a good fall feel to it. But I think the one that has the most Halloween atmosphere is Halloween Kills for me. I don't know if it's because of the way the movie looks, but I think that one has the best look and feel. And then the John Carpenter references. And what I mean by that is, everybody's talked about it, the Christine reference. I really love that. And I'm a big fan of Christine. That's one of my favorite John Carpenter movies. And I like that in the beginning of this movie, there's a reference to The Thing, which I won't talk about too much, but I really like that. So, what I can respect David Gordon Green for is the love that he has for John Carpenter, and the homages and winks that he puts in these movies. So that's really cool. And I like the fact that, he brought Halloween 3 back to life, because 10 years ago, 15 years ago, even 10 years ago, the movie wasn't loved. And I remember when I would say that I love Halloween 3, people thought that was blasphemy, that I loved it. So I like that, David Gordon Green has brought Halloween 3 back to life, and it has now a fan base out there. So I love Halloween 3. I know that's a different movie, and it works great for me. Going into the neutral stuff, acting wise, I feel like the acting is good here, but I do feel like it is quite cheesy, and there's some dialogue that's pretty cheesy in this movie. But the acting's good. I think Jamie Lee Curtis does a great job in this. I wish there was a little bit more to her last movie, but I still think she does a great job. Will Patton, his character Frank, is great, but he definitely could have used a lot more screen time. Same with Kyle Richards. I love that she's in this movie. I like that, the fan reaction that she had from Halloween Kills had David Gordon Green put her into this movie. Like, the fan base was awesome for her in Halloween Kills, and it's still awesome today. And I love Kyle Richards. I love her Lindsay Wallace. But she could have used a little bit more there too. I understand she was written in later on, but unlike Halloween Kills, she doesn't have a moment that really stands out in this movie. So I wish there was a little bit more there. But again, the acting overall is good. Andy, I don't want to mispronounce her last name, the actress who plays Allison. She's a neutral and a con for me, but her acting is good here. Her acting is really good here. And then the character Corey Cunningham. I wish the character and his story would have been introduced early on in this saga that David Gordon Green has created. Because even though I like most of it, I feel for a final Halloween movie, that story should have been focused on maybe in Kills or in the beginning somehow in David's movies. But I thought the actor did a great job, and overall, I really liked that. So the movie's different for that. I like it for that, but as a Halloween fan and as a final Halloween movie, that's something I don't want to see in a final Halloween movie. I'm kind of rambling there. Now going on to the cons. And I do have some cons. A lot of it has to do with the writing, and a lot of it has to do with the story. That's where the cons really hit me. And there was a lot of frustration there, especially towards the end of the movie, which I'm not going to really get into too many spoils. I'll let you know if I talk about spoilers, but I'm not really going to dive too much into that. The biggest problem I have with this movie, again, is the writing, and we'll go over some of it. I talked about how characters are underused, Lindsay Wallace and Will Patton's character, even Michael Myers to an extent, which I'll talk about that in a minute. The characters in this movie, both the characters that we know and the characters that we're introduced to, Laurie Strode, she is great in this. Jamie Lee Curtis is great in this movie. I love her. I love Jamie Lee Curtis, but I feel like we could have used a little bit more from her, being that this was her final movie. The character Allison, played by Andy Malinchek, hopefully I'm saying that right. I'm probably saying it wrong. I did not like Allison in this movie. Like, this was a character that in the first two movies I liked. I didn't like some of the stuff in Halloween 2018 that she did, but I liked her. And rewatching the movies this past week, I liked her more in those films. Halloween Kills, I really liked her in the movie. I did not like the direction that they went with this character. I understand this character's went through a lot, and she's got her own trauma there with the loss of her parents and Cameron and her friends. But writing this character, I don't like the direction that they went with her. I did not like her in this movie. I said I hated her the first night I finished this movie because I didn't like the way she treated her grandmother. Again, even though she was going through some traumatic stuff, I didn't like the direction that they went with that. I just felt like it was really off for the character. And I wasn't a big fan of hers. Acting-wise, great. But character-wise, just terrible. And at the end of the movie, she tries to redeem herself. And I thought it was too late at that time. So she does have a lot of screen time, but I don't like the character in this movie, and I was not a big fan of hers. Corey Cunningham, again, he was a neutral thing, but I still think they should have like introduced this character and had his story, you know, in the last movie or in 2018, and had this movie be a film about Laurie and Michael. And then, you know, in general with the characters, every other character, new character we're introduced to in this movie are unlikable. I think they're supposed to be that, but they're unlikable. And the kills, they're not kills that stand out. I had a problem with it. The writing, again, is the big problem I have with this movie. And then you incorporate the kills that don't really stand out, and the new characters that are just either forgettable or unlikable. I didn't like that. And they were probably supposed to be unlikable, but I just had a big problem with that. And I had a big problem that Haddonfield had a lot of unlikable people in that town. I don't think it's, I think in a realistic approach, you know, you don't, not every character, not every person in a town is going to be unlikable. And they were in this movie. That's just my opinion. Let's talk about the final act of this movie without giving too much away. Again, not a big fan. I think for a final act, for a final movie's act that is ending this saga, it was very weak. The battle that we see between Michael and Laurie literally feels like 5 minutes, and they could have done so much with that movie. And I hate to mention it, but I think Halloween H2O works so much better as kind of a, quote, final movie, even though we got Resurrection after that. And the 20-minute sequence that we have between Laurie and Michael standing off with each other works so much better in that movie. I get a little frustrated when, you know, people talk down on that movie. You know, everybody has their opinion, but I just remember when that movie came out and it got a lot more praise than anything, and now people really kind of just push that movie aside. And it's, you know, one of my favorites in the franchise. So yeah, the final act, 5 minutes, a little forgettable, and not something that I really cared for. And then talking about Michael Myers and his fate in this movie, it kind of goes hand to hand with the final act, but I really feel like I love James Jude Courtney as Michael. I think he's one of my favorite Michael Myers that we've had in this whole universe, but they really downplayed him in this movie. I understand this was more of Corey's story. I get it, but when you're having, again, a final film, this is the frustrating part for me. When you're having a final film in a franchise, this is your final Halloween movie, and you don't use the greatness that is James Jude Courtney in this movie as much as you should, I have a problem with that. And I didn't like the way they portrayed Michael in this. Like, it was just very odd, and I wasn't a big fan of that. So, and then his fate at the end of the movie, which I don't want to really give spoilers away. I didn't like it. It wasn't a really good payoff, and, you know, yeah, just not a big fan of that. So I won't spoil the movie. I won't say how and I will say this, he dies. I won't say how he dies, but I wasn't a fan of it. Again, I'm going to reference Halloween H2O. I think it's a brilliant ending, despite it being a fake Michael Myers at the end of the movie. I think it's a brilliant ending, and I rewatched it this past week, and that movie's fantastic. So yeah, and again, I talked about Laurie Strode, I talked about Allison. Laurie Strode, Jamie Lee Curtis does a great job in this. We could have used a little bit more from her. And Allison is a character that I just found so unlikable in this movie. I didn't like the direction that they went with. I didn't like the direction that they went with her character in this movie. And they could have done so much better with it. So, I'm going to wrap up in a minute. I do apologize for the negativity with this video because I normally don't like to do this. I really don't. But being that I'm a big Halloween fan, I had to talk about this movie. So, be right back. So before I give you my final thoughts on this franchise, or on David Gordon Green's saga and and the future of Halloween and this franchise, I want to rank these movies, and I'm going to do a quick ranking because I've talked about these movies before, but of course I'm going to involve Halloween Ends, and there's 13 movies total. And I don't think this will be a surprise for people, but ranking in at number 13 is Halloween Ends. I've given you my thoughts. This is the only Halloween movie in this franchise I don't like at all. I really don't like this movie. It's going to be a film that I'll watch later on down the road, but I don't even know if I'm going to watch it next Halloween. And I'm definitely not going to see it in theaters. I'm glad the movie's doing well. I'm glad it has been, successful. There is topic, though, online about the, day one streaming and theatrical release of the movie, and I don't think it's the hit that they wanted it to be. So, I won't talk about that too much, but I'm glad the movie's successful. And, I love when horror movies are successful, so congrats to that. But yeah, I'm not a fan of this movie. I've talked about it. So going in at number 12 is Rob Zombie's Halloween. This movie right here is a film that I don't... it's a film that I do like. I really enjoy it. It's not a film I dislike. I think this movie gets a little bit more hate than it... and it doesn't deserve that. But where this movie falls now, 15 years later, is the first act of the movie. I think that's a pretty weak, or it just doesn't hold up well. There's some interesting things with the first act of the movie, the first half of the film. But overall, I think that just kind of doesn't hold up as well. When we get to the second act with, Laurie, or the final, the second half of the film with Laurie and Annie and Linda and all those characters, I love that. I think that's very entertaining. What makes this movie falls down so low on the list now is that it's not a film that I go back and watch a lot, and I think the first half of the film just doesn't hold up and age as well. So that's number 12 for me. Number 11, I used to have on the bottom list, and I'm going to be quite honest with you guys. I don't think it deserves to be on the bottom list. I really enjoy this movie. I think it's a little bit more hate than it deserves. It's a fun Halloween movie. I enjoy watching this movie every October, and every once in a while I'll put the movie on and have a good time with it. That's Halloween Resurrection. I'll be the first one to say I really enjoy this movie. It's a fun film. It's not perfect, but I find it very entertaining. And yes, the movie didn't need to exist because of how good the Halloween H2O ending is, but I really enjoyed the movie. I'm going to say that. I really enjoy it, and it's definitely not on the bottom of my list. Coming in at number 10 is Halloween 2018, a film that does get better after my first initial reaction seeing this movie in theaters. I liked it. I enjoyed it when I saw it in theaters, but I really enjoy it now. Entertaining movie, and overall just a great film from David Gordon Green. Coming in at number 9 is Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers. I know it's lower on the list, but I love this movie. Everything after this film, this movie and going forward, I love them for what they are. Halloween 5, I love it. It gets a lot of hate, but I'm glad there is a fan base out there. There are people that love the movie now and appreciate the movie. This was one of the first Halloween movies I saw, and I absolutely love it. Coming in at number 8 is Halloween Kills. So this was number 6, the last time I ranked this movie. But the reason I think this movie has went down, or I know the reason why this movie has went down, is what we got after this movie. And it's really hard for me, it will be really hard for me to go and watch this movie knowing what we had in Ends. That being said, though, out of David Gordon Green's Halloween movies, this is my favorite. I love it. I think it's a fun slasher movie. It's very entertaining, and I watched it the other night, and it's still a great movie. Despite Halloween Ends, it is still a great movie, and I can have a fun time with it. Definitely the best Halloween atmosphere in David Gordon Green's movies. Coming in at number 7 is Halloween 6, or Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers. I'm going to just talk about the theatrical cut, because I'm really just going over theatrical movies. When it comes to Rob Zombie's movies, I don't like the director's cuts. I'm a fan of the theatrical cuts. But this movie right here, I think it's definitely one of the most underrated or underappreciated movies in the franchise. I love it. I think this is one of the scariest Michael Myers we've had. And just overall, I think this is a great film with a great atmosphere, Halloween atmosphere, and I love it. Coming in at number 6 is Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. Again, talking about the theatrical cut, this is the director's cut Blu-ray. I'm a fan of Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. I love it. I saw it in theaters. I loved it then. I think this is a different Halloween movie that still center focuses Michael Myers, but Rob Zombie went into a direction that I absolutely love. And again, great Halloween atmosphere in that. Coming in at number 5 is Halloween 3, another different Halloween movie that I totally appreciate and love. This is a film in the franchise for the longest time, just got so much hate, and I'm glad it has a fan base now and people are loving the film and appreciating the movie. But Halloween 3, amazing atmosphere, amazing movie. So coming in at number 4 is Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. Absolutely love it. Very fun Halloween movie, a movie that I can watch pretty much any time in the franchise and still have an awesome time with it. I absolutely love it. Came out the month I was born, so very cool there. Coming in at number 3 is Halloween H2O. I know we had Resurrection after this movie, but if you're one that just hates Resurrection and Halloween H2O ends in that franchise for you, I totally get it, because the ending is amazing. I love the ending. I love this movie. My favorite performance from Jamie Lee Curtis as Laurie Strode. She's fantastic, and just overall really love this. And you know, you have the mask changes in that, but you know, that's one of the small cons in the movie in my opinion. And then, you know, Halloween 2 comes in at number 2 for me. This is my favorite sequel of all time as far as like a horror movie goes. I just really love this sequel. Definitely the best one after the original movie, and it still holds up really well. I love that film. The scariest Halloween movie. Not my favorite Halloween movie, but the scariest. And coming in at number 1 is John Carpenter's Halloween, which you all know. Absolutely adore this movie, and I love it. So that's my ranking. Now I want to wrap up this video, and I'll be right back with you guys. So, wrapping up this video, quick thoughts about David Gordon Green's trilogy and the future of the franchise. This is not going to be a trilogy I watch quite a bit now going forward. It's not taking away from how much I enjoy his first 2 movies, but Halloween Ends definitely puts a sour note on that, in my opinion. That might be some strong words there, but it just really just stuck with me, and I'm not a fan of the way they kind of wrapped up this saga. There's definitely some pros in the overall trilogy or the films David Gordon Green has brought us, but there's some cons, and this is, for me, just not my Halloween storyline. I prefer other storylines, and people could disagree with me on that, but yeah, I love Halloween Kills. It's went down a little bit for me, though, with the result of Halloween Ends. And his first movie is a solid Halloween movie that's entertaining to watch. And the future of the Halloween franchise, I don't know where they can go with this. I honestly, at this point, I think they just need to start fresh. Don't have a Laurie Strode character. You don't have to have any character references from the previous movies. Just do a new, fresh take on a Halloween movie with a Michael Myers, and I think I'd be happy with that. At one point, I was like, Jamie Lloyd would be great to come back, and I still think it would work, but if you have the same team behind this new franchise or this new saga that we just had, I don't think I'd be really happy with it. So this is a downer end of the video, but I wanted to give you my honest thoughts, guys. I wanted to give you my ranking of the franchise, talk about Halloween Ends. So anyway, guys, I'll be back with a much more upbeat video coming up. I want to talk about the latest Halloween 4Ks that we've had and more October videos. But as always, you guys are awesome. You guys rock. And with the positive out with the negative, go eat some Skittles. Be kind to one another, guys. And I'll talk to you guys later. You guys are beautiful. All right.